Hey there guys, Artistic Nick here, thanks for the click. In today's drawing tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create amazing contrast in your realistic drawings, which is really going to make your artwork pop. Thanks so much for tuning in today guys. I hope you get a lot from this video. I'm going to share with you some of my tips and secrets that I've been using over the last couple of years now to make some really nice realistic work, some lovely portraits, and I'm going to share with you some of the equipment and pencils that I also use to create these pieces. This was a commissioned piece of work that I've been asked to do recently, and it's of a young girl. I actually decided to title the piece Cheeky Girl, and you'll see as the picture starts to develop why I've called it this. It was a really nice piece to work from. The actual reference image that I had was quite poor quality, so it was quite a challenging drawing. But basically what I'm going to talk you through is exactly how I create a realistic look and what I go through. So what I start with is I start with the darkest areas, and now obviously in this picture the glasses had black rims around them, so I started with that, and for that I used something called WOLFF carbon. I've been using these pencils now for a couple of months and I'm really enjoying the way that they lay down on the paper and the contrast that you can start to create. Now the WOLFF carbon pencils are sort of a mixture between a charcoal and a pencil itself, and it just allows you to get some really deep blacks, but it does layer like a pencil. So I started off with the eyes, the darkest parts of the eyes and the glasses, and then from there on I use Caran D'ache pencils, and I always start with a 2H pencil and work my way up to a 6B pencil in the darker areas. And I use, in some areas I use a very soft brush, and also I use a blending stump just to get some of the smoother values, particularly around the glasses. When you're working through a portrait that you're trying to create realism, I really like to start in the darkest areas and build the values up from there. I do know there's a few artists out there that like to work from the lightest areas to begin with. This is my personal preference. I've drawn this way for the last few years and it works for me, but you know, I'm sure that there are other ways of doing it. So I always find the darkest areas and just gradually work out from there. Now the trick with creating realism, and this is really important, is that you have really high contrast between your darkest and your lightest areas. If you can create this, you can create a realistic drawing, whether that's of a car, an animal, or a portrait in this case. So as you're looking at this, the lightest areas on this face are around the nose and the cheek area to the right hand side. We've got a slight highlight in the middle of the forehead, and this is just going to give us that sense of dimension and look. Now as you can see, as the hand is starting to develop, you can see why I've called this piece Cheeky Girl. She's actually giving a rather rude hand gesture, which I just really think makes the picture. As you can see, because the hand is in the foreground, it's further forwards in the face, we are going to have more highlights on this. And again, it's really important that you do study your reference and try and balance those values. I do see an awful lot of drawings that people have been sending me that are either too washed out, which means that we haven't developed enough value, we haven't created enough contrast, or we've gone too dark in certain areas. So I would really advise you, just study your reference image and make sure you're trying to pull out the lightest areas as much as you can and make the darkest areas as dark as you can. Don't be afraid to go dark. I can remember in the early days when I used to first do my first portraits, I was very scared to go too dark. I felt that if I went too dark I was going to ruin the drawing. Same thing for the hair, make sure you are getting contrast. Now we have got sort of a whitey blonde hair on this girl here, but I'm going to make sure that I have got contrast. You can't ever make a blonde looking hair by just leaving white or going too dark with a pencil, so we are taking value out with the kneaded eraser and the mono zero eraser, and then we're brushing in, always brushing the hair and making sure that the contrast is just being toned up in certain areas and toned down in others. A couple of little neat tricks as well is, I like to call this a peekaboo, but if you look at the glasses, on the left hand side of the glasses you can start to see a bit of the frame underneath the hair, and it just gives you that sense that the hair is sitting in front. I've had so much fun with this channel so far guys, thank you for supporting me. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and find me on social media. I'll see you all in the next video. Hit subscribe, smack the notifications button, follow me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter.